I am Doug Friedman.
I am Kenzie Janest.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast
where we talk about therapy because we are therapists.
We are, I can't say that. My dad will literally, this is my dad in a nutshell. We'll probably have to edit this out.
You know, my dad in a nutshell? Help, I'm in a nutshell.
No. What did I say about bad jokes, Doug?
There are no bad jokes, only bad
people who tell them.
Oh, man.
Bad comedians.
Wow. I'm not a comedian. I'm a therapist.
Please.
You're a therapist. We are both therapists.
We are therapists. It's still weird, but it's getting easier to come to terms with. How do you separate your identity from being a therapist? You know what I mean?
Because there's something that a lot of therapists will hear from friends or family, which is a classic line. Don't psychoanalyze me.
Yeah. Are you reading my mind right now?
Right?
No.
I knew you were going to say that, though.
No, you didn't. Because that's not what therapists do.
Oh.
If I could read people's mind, that would be horrible. Imagine your life right now if you could read everyone's minds. You're telling me that wouldn't drive you absolutely bonkers?
Correct. Wow, you did read my mind because
See?
I was telling you that would not drive me absolutely bonkers. If I knew how to calibrate it, if you could turn it off.
Okay, but yeah, see, that's nuance. No, I'm saying at all times you are if you're in the presence of somebody else,
right,
you can read their minds. Imagine you're at a party and you're reading everyone's mind. I mean, that's just awful. You can't shut it off.
If you can't shut it off, that would be tough. And here's the thing. How do we integrate this and how do we separate our identity? Well,
that's the question.
Part of what we are, we're not psychoanalyzing everybody all the time.
No, because
we still think of things the way a therapist would think of things because that's just how our minds work.
Does it ever just get really exhausting though? Because sometimes I'm like, oh, it's my job to overthink. Like, who am I? Am I a therapist? Am I Kenzie? Am I a Kenzie who has a job? Is it my job to be a therapist sometimes? Is there a version of myself that is a therapist and a version of myself that is not?
You are all of these things, though.
I know.
It's sort of like sometimes I work with clients where we have to disintegrate in order to reintegrate. Because we disintegrate and look at all the different parts. And sometimes we might want to get rid of some of those parts, and sometimes we want to strengthen others, and then we reintegrate and recognize that this is who I am.
Yeah, it's rough. It's hard.
That's what Beckett said.
I absolutely, see, I did read your mind in that moment because I knew you were going to say that.
Right. Because I just told a really bad
dad joke.
Yeah, about a talking dog.
And we're not going to say it again because it was really, really long and it didn't land at all because
you don't know baseball.
I don't know sports. I should be ashamed of myself because my brother played baseball basically my whole childhood. Oh no, we're doing the inner child thing.
It's debatable.
It's debatable.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what isn't debatable?
What, Doug?
We have a listener question. This one did come from a listener. We you know what we don't have, though? We don't have a name for our listener question section.
See? A clarifying question, or that's just too niche and boring. Yeah. Because it sounds like whatever, even though it is like a therapeutic technique.
Right. I mean, I don't want to say mailbag or your comments or comment corner. Or,
but alliteration is good.
I know. That's why I said comment corner, but I don't like that either.
You don't like a light bulb?
I like a light bulb. Light bulb moment.
Light bulb moment. Flash
who
bulb.
knows?
We'll think about this.
You know what you guys should do? You guys should give us some ideas for what to call the section that we have when we have comments from you guys. So this came from Lauren on Facebook. She says, fellow therapist here. Love your podcast. That was before you came on, so she was probably just talking about it.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that.
Yeah, it wasn't you.
And now I hate it.
I loved your podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
What is one way you connect with or celebrate your inner child as an adult?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a really sweet question.
It is.
I feel tenderness from this question.
Aww.
Yeah. I don't practice as a therapist with an inner child framework, but it's funny because I actually just came up with a client last night who's only 15 years old, and I still was like, we were talking about kind of hugging her inner child, like her little version of herself. But, as a client or as just a human being, and obviously I'm just taking the reins, I guess, on this one. I'm starting. But, Lauren, you say one thing to connect to inner child. I mean, I have so many things, I feel like. I think really anything that just makes me feel like I'm letting go, right? Like being silly and just not caring so much about my presentation, letting go the expectations and responsibilities of being an adult. Like anything that just feels silly, like just very pure, just who you are at the core when you've released the inhibitions.
Yeah. Right. So what is one of those things?
Oh, God. Okay. The pressure. The thing that comes to mind first, obviously there's like arts and crafts and dancing and like those types of things that are more socially acceptable when you're younger, I guess. But I think the biggest thing for me is like being in the outdoors, actually, because I grew up like camping every summer and hiking and just being outside in it does feel very like pure and very, almost primal, obviously. Like, it's just like who I am at the core. Like, this is me just being a little human in nature. And I feel so small. So maybe I'm equating that to like inner child. But I think it's mostly the nostalgia too. Like, I feel safe in nature when I'm camping. There's a safety there. And I can let go. I'm not bathing. I'm like really letting go in so many ways.
That's true. Not bathing for an extended period of time is a way to connect with your inner child. That's true.
I make someone else do it for me.
Yeah, I think to define it, you kind of hit it, Kenzie. It's the key being that moment of uninhibited self-expression. It's something that makes that inner child in you feel safe to come out and play. And play to me is a big part of it. And it's something where I can say seeing my dog when I take him out, seeing him, especially in the snow, just loving it, just loving being there and running around so free and uninhibited. And there's no judgment, no embarrassment, no shame. Even as an actor, I know doing improv, say like sometimes you're like, oh my God, how are you so quick? How do you do that? Like, improv, acting.
I didn't know you did improv.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I wasn't an improv person, but as a part of being an actor, you do
it's like
improv.
Training.
Yeah. It's a lot of yes and building on something. And, there were things that we did in school where there were these competitions or programs where you would just creatively think of things. Like there was one exercise where you were handed some random object and you had to pass it around the group and name like something that the object was. And you would just make things up.
Yeah.
So for me, just being quick like that and improving, and it allows me to act both silly and intelligently, sometimes at the same time.
Well, because creativity is similar to intelligence.
Absolutely. I think so. And doing it without any shame or embarrassment and without any fear of judgment, that's the stuff that I love doing. And I would say from a dad joke to taking my dog to the snow. I think for me, I love this question because what do you do as an adult? It's making it specific to us, right?
Yeah.
And I think I do these things all the time. Yeah. I take my dog out every day.
Right.
Not to the snow, but we go out all the time. When I think about it as something that connects me to my inner child or a celebration of inner child, just by virtue of putting that in my head, thank you, Lauren, for asking that, I now feel good because I feel like I'm nurturing that inner child.
Yeah, I almost feel like inner child work is almost like a mindfulness exercise too, because, you're really tapping into the feelings that come with just tapping into something that is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Pure, primal, but just like innate almost, like just the stuff you were born with, like just being.
Totally.
Really.
It's interesting because we talk about it in this episode, but we talk about it in this session. We talk about it a lot with our clients in terms of, I'll say like in the session, it was little Sarah, like connecting to that. Because there's a theory in psychology about the wounded child. What were some things that happened to you when you were that inner child that got judged, embarrassed, ashamed, feared, threatened? So that inner child had to be protected. And had to be filtered and wasn't allowed to come out or wasn't okay if it came out. So you learn to do things to protect the inner child and in a sense kind of burying it deeper and deeper.
Right? Yeah, you quiet that voice that just, it's really sad actually when you really think about it. It can make you really sad thinking about how much we have lowered the volume on our inner child. And, you know, I often will ask clients, like, what was your earliest memory of feeling, you know, shame or XYZ feeling, right? Of like that thing that kind of made you develop these adaptive coping mechanisms at one point, but now they're just like defense mechanisms that are not serving you. But there was usually an early memory of, you know, that first time I felt sheer embarrassment or humiliation or whatever it was.
Which happens, I think, naturally all the time, especially when we're kids around other kids, for sure.
Yeah, once you start comparing yourself to others.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the bullying aspect of things. I'm just saying like, just little things
existing.
That we do all the time, because it's usually in our own heads, but then we become that judge and jury in our heads of our actions and the things we're doing. And that here we are, segues right into, we're talking about, in a sense, Drew feeling a little bit of that inner child, of that joy of enjoying something and not just adulting all the time. And
we have to have a balance, you know, like we gotta get in the mud a little bit sometimes and do what makes us happy, because everyone loves rolling in the mud, don't they?
They do.
I don't know why that came to mind, but like playfulness.
You're so murky.
I know.
You and your mud.
I know. No, I'm not going to say that.
You know what you're going to say?
What?
Probably a lot when we come back and break it down. But right now, we're out.
Well, okay, bye.
Jump right in, because I know you've said it many, many times. I suck at finances. And your mom does your finances, but your mom's not all that reliable. So where are you at?
Since like baby kind of came into the picture, it's been a whole shift of focus, and I needed that. It was like a good click in my brain of what was what and where. And so we've been saving a lot these last couple of months, which is really new for me, of not paycheck to paycheck. It's been a lot more of the, okay, well, what do we have right now and what can we work with and how do we do this? And me and girlfriend have been bouncing ideas off of each other and being able to really gear up for what's the next couple of months, right? And so I'm taking, like, I love our dirty dishes in the sink analogy, because it makes sense to me, right? And so I feel like I've been clearing out like the big pans and like the bigger things, and I got some knives and some glasses left in there that I'm trying to take care of, but I've got the really big stuff handled and they're clean and I'm ready, and like that's good for me. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I've been struggling with my car as far as like getting insurance, and then my mom was getting the mail from that for whatever reason, and so she got one yesterday, and she was like, I know you don't have any money, I know you can't afford this, and kind of like laid into me in that way. And I was like, no, like I got this, like how, like I'll send it to you right now, you know, like don't worry about me type of thing. And she was in that, you know, I talked to her yesterday for the first time in a couple of weeks. I'll get back to what that is, because the other time I talked to her was when we told her we were pregnant, and I'd like to dive into that a little bit too. But just financially speaking, yesterday she was really trying to mom me, and and I had a horrible headache, and I was like, Mom, like I appreciate you calling and I appreciate you doing this for me, but like you could have also just forwarded the mail to me and I could have handled it. Kind of coming back to it, it was nice to, one, not dive into my savings to be able to fund for that, and then two, that was the biggest kind of thing that's been hanging over my head, as far as I don't know how I'm going to afford that and pay for it every month, all the time. But I finally got my insurance dialed in. So all in all, what I'm saying is I'm saving, paying bills, and still kind of eating and living, which is new for me.
Yeah, it's responsibility, and that's living within your means, which is seemingly not a sexy thing to do or think about. But it actually is, right? Because then it doesn't come with all the stress and all the other burden and what you can or can't do. You know, when you have said in the past, yeah, I suck at finances, you had no idea where you were because it was all taken care of for you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of being an adult and being independent and doing what you're doing, especially as you're preparing for having a kid, but even just being a human, is having a sense of that for yourself, knowing, you know, where you stand and where you are. Right? Yeah.
Well, and it's crazy. The stability of what this is for me has now in turn changed my mood. You know, like I've been having a lot better days and a lot less kind of free falling stress type of days. I feel like I just got that final push without the training wheels, and I'm kind of like coasting, and I haven't hit any bushes or anything yet, but I'm still a little wobbly on my bike.
Right. Yeah, and I give you a lot of credit right there for not saying, but I'm trying. You're not trying, you're doing. You're a little wobbly and you're doing. I mean, it's so easy to not think about it and to do something. You got a sink full of dishes. You can wake up in the morning and like, nope, I'm just going to go over and use these dishes over here and stick them on the counter. Not even look at the sink. Yeah. But it weighs on you. It's stressful. And the idea, that you're talking about is I got the big pots out of the way. I'm recognizing that it's there. When you don't recognize it, or when you have a cleaner that comes over or somebody else in the house that does dishes, you don't have to think about it and you can be ignorant. Mm-hmm. That's mom taking care of everything for you.
Yeah.
She can also throw it back in your face.
Yeah.
And I think that, the bills for the car was kind of like her going, oh, wow, you've got a sink full of dishes. Well, how can you expect to have a baby and be a father yourself when you can't manage it, dishes in the sink? Mm-hmm. And you're going, no, it's actually, 2 forks, a spoon, and a small plate. Do you want to just wash them? I'll give you the soap and the sponge. Send them to me. I'll wash them. I'll take care of it.
Right.
You're aware of it now. It doesn't mean the sink is clear.
Right.
It just means I know what it is. And money is one of the most stressful things for most people. Whether you don't have enough or you have a lot, don't know what to do with it. Either way.
Yeah. Yeah, either way it's stressful. And I'm starting to learn what that is too. Kind of going back to Rockstar of like, well, I hate this 9-to-5 shit, but I need it. And that's what my workplace is. And then I have this other 2 kind of side projects that are really fun for me. And with talking with a friend, this was a couple of days ago, we were kind of mapping it out and planning and seeing what the next year looks like. And this is really dope. He's one of those people I really trust in my life, and has always kind of looked out for me. And I've talked to you about him before, and he reminds me a lot of my dad. And so coming back to our financial conversation, it's allowing me to take care of my bills right now with workplace, having a secondary income with friend, and then having a bigger picture idea of what I really want to be doing with friend. And it feels really good because I can actually see a legit plan coming to.
I just want to hold there for a second and look at, you've had an interesting arc, and you are someone that has gotten excited about some of these things, but you never looked at it as the get rich quick scheme. You never looked at it as this is going to solve my problems. This is my ticket. So I'm thinking of all this experience, and I don't want to just chalk it up to, oh no, it's all good learning experience, but I want to think about what feels different for you with the plan that you're talking about, because I can highlight some differences, but I want you to tell me about how it feels different, not just how it looks different or logically how it is different.
Right. Yeah. It feels a lot different in how solid I feel. My foundation I feel very solid in. I don't feel like I'm day-to-daying this. I'm not like waking up one morning and being like, okay, well, I gotta make something happen today. It's more so, I feel like I have a lot more control over what's happening in the unknown, if that makes sense. It's a lot more of, okay, well, I have my 9-to-5 and I sell clothes and I enjoy that, and I get to see people, and I get to dive into the relationship aspect of my life again.
Yeah, it's interesting because that still sounds like following my passion and what I like doing, but I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket.
Right.
And my eggs are my eggs. I'm not waiting around for someone else to crack an egg and scramble it. It's right. No, I'm holding my own. I'll add a little piece to that, which is, and you talked about it in terms of the stability, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for you,
workplace
gives you that stability.
Yeah.
It's not the sexiest job, but it's very well known to you. You easily got that. You rocked it. It really provided you with, here's that stability. Here's the home base. From here, I can do X, Y, and Z, and I know what they are. I'm not just saying X, Y, Z. I know what they are, right? I've got projects, and again, they're not get rich quick things. It's a little side hustle. You're somebody who likes working, who will go after things, and the motivation and the things that you put into it is what you'll get out. you've got stability and that means something. You're clearing the pots and pans out of the sink. I mean, you're taking care of things. And it, to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but baby on the way is motivation for it. It's not the only reason you're doing this.
Right. Absolutely. I think that kind of hit, and it allowed me to see what my motivation really was and what really inspires, what drives my work ethic.
Right.
And I think I was sitting, this is kind of a side tangent, but I was sitting here kind of thinking the other day of just how much I put into clothes and fashion and what that means to me and everything that is kind of combined with it. And I was kind of sitting there asking myself, well, what other passions do I have? What else do I like? And we went out to dinner one night, just me and her. And I remember sitting there. We went to a really nice restaurant. We both kind of looked at each other before we went. We're like, we can't fucking afford this, but like, let's go and enjoy and have like some appetizers and some water. Nice. You know what I mean? Like, let's just go enjoy. And he ended up basically comping the whole meal for us. But what I mean with all of those things is I felt like I've been working a lot to get myself to a point where I felt stable, that I really missed out on just enjoying certain things. And I don't mean stopping and smelling the roses. I think I say that a lot. But I think genuinely just finding other passions in my life. And once I kind of got back to work from that couple of days off, I felt like a brand new man. I think we talk about Big Drew, Little Drew a lot, and I feel like I'm almost a mixture of both in this in the enjoyment of the magic as a kid, and you know, we were very mindful of finances and going to work and doing our due diligence to be parents. And so I just feel very balanced.
Yeah. There's something really poetic here for you. Like it's wild. And I don't know if it's here or I can't remember, but the harvest is plentiful. The laborers are few.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of your sayings. I mean, it's on you. Right.
Yeah.
That idea and that concept, you know, of you're not asking for, you know, more harvest, more food. You're asking for more opportunity to labor. More work. Give me more work. Let me prove myself. Let me do it. And I don't want mom to just pay this bill. Nope. I got this. I'm not asking for harvest. I asked for laborers. I got it. I'm doing the work. And with that in mind, I go to have a nice dinner and someone hooks it up. Awesome. That's your bread coming back tenfold. When you're on the right path, your right path for you, things fall into place like that. They make more sense. It's less struggle. When you're actually washing some of those dishes, it's easier to have a meal and wash the dishes you just used than to stick them in the pile of dirty crap on one side of the sink.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you're doing, you're not trying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that.
What do you think of that?
I feel that for sure. I think now, you know, it's the other day I was like, oh, it's Friday already? You know, like, nice. And kind of in the context of I'm aware of what day it is and I am aware of what I'm doing, but I'm not every day rides on one thing, not one situation.
Okay. I'm going to switch a gear a little bit just to test something out here. Okay.
Yep.
This is really cool. This sounds great. I don't want to just blow smoke up your ass.
Right.
I don't want to just tell you the cool stuff that you're doing and, oh, wow, you're so responsible now. You're doing great. No, you're still struggling to make ends meet. You're working hard. You got a bunch of things going on. You got a fucking baby coming out in July.
Yep.
You know, with somebody that you're in a good spot, but it's somebody that showed true colors to you less than a year ago. And you're like, all right, I'm not out of here, but I don't know. And now you're going to be co-parenting. You weren't digging how she was co-parenting previously. Now you're in that mix to a degree, telling mom we're having a baby and then mom going, hey, can you really handle your shit? Look at all these bills I'm getting for you. What's going on? You're a baby. Tell me how all this hits you.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong in any of that. But it doesn't, I guess, feeling wise, it's not like I have my tummy's not turning and I'm not like, well, you're right. What should I do? You know, it's like, yeah, you're right. And that is what it is. And I couldn't be happier with where I'm at right now.
How is that? How's that even possible? Tell me what the feeling, because you're right. Your tummy's not turning. What's going on?
I think I'm really living my life and not allowing the outside pressures of judgment to come in more so my parents. And so we ended up FaceTiming them Christmas morning and had a good conversation. And then kind of towards the end of it, I was like, okay, and also like, we have something to tell you. And they're like, what's going on? And I was like, and we're pregnant. And we were all excited. We're like, yeah. And they were kind of like, yeah, yay. Like, oh.
Right.
You know, like not disappointed, but not super happy, kind of shocked and like, oh, you're not married. You don't have your own house. You've been on your own for like a year and you barely figured it out. What do you mean? I got off the phone with them and we both looked at each other and we're like, well, I mean, that's their reaction. You know, like we're both super excited and I hope that they're excited or can be, you know. I think the shock factor of what that is was a lot for them. Because it came out of nowhere, you know? Then my dad kind of followed up with a text and he was like, hey man, like, I know we seem kind of shocked on the phone, but I'm really excited for you and I couldn't be happier and I'm really proud of you and everything you're doing. And I was like, yo, thanks dad. Like, I really appreciate that. And then my mom kind of took it into my true mom mode. And she was like, okay, well, when are we doing the baby shower? And can I come down there and see you guys? And can we do this and that? And what's the gender? And what's the name? And what do you need from me? And all that kind of stuff. In that moment, I was more drawn back. And I was like, Mom, like, we're good. And I really want you to be involved in every step of this. This is my first kid. You know, you're my mom. Like, I want you to be involved and I want you to be a part of this. But I don't want you to move down here. And I don't want you to come down every other week just to check in and see how we're doing, you know, like we're good. She was like, so what's the plan? Like, what, do you guys have a house? Do you have this? And she said it just like that. It was, do you have a house? And I was like, Mom, yeah, we got it under control. Like, if you really need to know the plan, great, but I don't want to have this phone call right now. I don't feel good. I have a horrible headache and this isn't what you even called me about. You called me about a bill and we figured that out. So I'm going to go now. And so she got kind of angry about that. And I was like, Mom, like, this is my kid. This is my pregnancy. This is not for you to come in and tell me how to do it. I think yesterday I felt a lot of strength in what that conversation was, even though I don't think I handled it the way I would have wanted to. And again, I'm just going to give myself a pass because I had a horrible headache and I was just short with her. You know, I was kind of rude. I was kind of short. I wasn't super loving and like, Mom, I love you so much. This is going to be great. It was like, Mom, like, I don't know what to talk about this right now. But I think I handled it pretty well as far as like my boundaries and what I want and the way I want all of this to kind of go. And honestly, I'm happy for myself. I beat my brother to it. You know, I kind of checked that one off the box. So yeah, you know, I think it's allowing me to find a better relationship with my parents in a much more grown-up way. She also said something along the lines of, I don't know how exactly she said it, but the way I received it was, are you sure you want to do this? It's a mistake. And she used the word mistake, and I stopped her right there, and I was like, listen, Mom, like, I know this isn't how they did it back in your day, and I realized that you and Dad got married first and that you had kind of some shit settled, and you kind of had it planned out a little bit differently. And I'm not going to say better or worse, but differently than I do. But this isn't for you. And I couldn't be more excited. And this is the most opposite thing of a mistake that I could even think of. Like, this is such a celebration and such a blessing to me.
Wow. That sounds like, gosh, you have a boundary.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice. It was really nice.
I hear that. And, you know, this isn't the smoke up your ass part. This is actually legit. Like, that's huge. That's incredible growth. Yeah. With Mom, not making excuses, not taking it as, oh, I need to make sure she's okay. Oh, I'm not being okay for her, so I need to be better. No, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I know me. I know where I'm at. I'm good. She can take it however she's going to take it. I've got my boundary, and I'm not going to take that crap from her.
Right.
And I'm going to lay it down.
Hell yeah.
And that's not because I've got enough money and I'm independent and I don't need anything from you. No, I might need some things from you sometimes, sure. And I am my own person, right? That's boundary, that's strength, that's knowing yourself. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing I'll say in the mix of all of this that I just kind of thought about that I am proud of myself for is, I think we talked about it before, but with friend, you know, I've asked him for help. You know, I was like, hey man, like I really want to, and we've been talking about this for the last year, you know, me and him of, I want to work with you. He wants to work with me. And where does that fit in? And where does that go? And I was like, listen, friend, like I need to get out of debt and this is where I'm at. And this is what I need to pay here, here, and here. If you could help me out on this, you know, I'd really appreciate that. And I need it. And that kind of in turn spun and has given me more than I asked for. And is allowing me to partner with him on a project that I'm really excited for. He's like a friend parent. You know, it's not like my dad where I get so emotionally involved in, well, dad, what's right and what's wrong? And if I do this and I make a mistake, am I fucked? And, you know, it's a little bit more, I'm experiencing it for myself and still asking for help. I don't feel like at this point, if I ask my parents for help, I don't think I'd get it. At least not the way I'd want it.
And I can hear your tone of voice just changed too. It's asking my parents for help and I feel like an infant.
Yeah.
You know, asking a friend for help. And no, I'm asking a colleague. I'm asking a mentor. I'm asking somebody that is my chosen person to go to.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little different. It sounds more empowering. I'm not a handout. I'm asking for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And if somebody can give me the opportunity, great. Open the door. Let me walk through and see what I got there. You've never, as I've known you, been afraid of working hard, you know,
right.
or getting your hands dirty. You'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to do it when you value yourself instead of being able to do it so that others will think you have something to give them, mm-hmm. that you have some value for them. So therefore you felt valued. No, the value that you're feeling comes internally. And now you want opportunities to show that and bring
right.
that.
Yeah.
That's growth, man. It's cool that you're feeling that. I mean, look, and I say you are,
mm-hmm.
and you got a ways to go. You've got a relationship and a co-parent, you know, that you've seen in certain lights. Doesn't mean that's who she is in that static. It's kind of like a throwback to, you know, us talking about snapshots in the Harry Potter pictures. Right. Your parents looking at her
mm-hmm.
like, oh, we know her with these little snapshots we've seen over time. So this is how she is, right? We're trying to make the Harry Potter out of it. She looks like this.
Right.
You're kind of looking at, well, no, I've seen her evolve over time. I've seen our relationship shift. And I'm not just taking an old snapshot going, this is who she is, but I'm also not ignoring that she has been like that,
right.
and like that, and like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're somebody who has been very understanding and forgiving of past.
Yeah.
You know? Well, that hit you.
Yeah. No, I just think it's inherent in the way I grew up that, I mean, I still forgive my mom daily. And like the way she talked to me yesterday, like if that was anybody else other than maybe my dad, I would have been like, fuck off. Like fuck off. Here's the door, go, bye. But it's my mom. So I think I hold a little bit more of that forgiveness in me because of that. And because I have that type of relationship with her, I just inherently forgive a little easier.
Yeah. I would say it's not just forgiving for the sake of forgiveness. It's understanding that there's growth.
Yeah.
You've done it too. I think being more comfortable with your present because you're not blind to your future. It's not an unknown thing. You got some plan, you got some stability, and it's not done and it's subject to change.
I think I go back and forth of really trying not to forgive people and being like, I'm done with you, fuck off, and being overly forgiving. And I think now as I'm a little bit more stable in my overall, my overall picture of life, I think my boundaries of what it means to forgive wholeheartedly and the boundaries I want to kind of draw a line in the sand of like, okay, that isn't okay with me.
Right.
And kind of finding that marriage, you know, is really kind of where I'm at right now, at least what I'm building on.
Part of that is a very big part of how you've been. You know, you said it about girlfriend. She used to be a go-go dancer. She did bottle service. Like, I know who she is. I know it.
Yep.
You know, okay. And she can make a mistake. Okay. Here's the throwback. You, with your dad, were able, I think at the wedding, your brother's wedding, to just say, yeah, I sell shoes. You know, owning who you really are and what you do. There's no shame in that.
Right.
Any of that shame comes from someone else's standard and their sense of judgment. And I think part of that comes from what you saw in dad and how he did that to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
And we're back.
Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I have maybe a weird question to start with, and maybe this is just me, but I can't help but wonder, where would Drew be right now, you think, if it weren't pregnancy, if we didn't have a baby on the way? Is it even worth thinking about that, first of all? Probably not, but I like to entertain this idea. Like, where would he be in terms of adulting, right? Because he's got this inner drive now, this motivation, right? And I'm like, most of it is coming from pregnancy, baby, maybe? Or is there maybe baby? Or is there more stuff to it?
It is a decent question. And it's one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I actually talk to a lot of individuals that are in relationships that have kids. And I mean, sometimes they'll have 10 years on Drew or more.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for their kids, where they are at that certain point in their lives, especially in the work that we're doing, they realize, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And many times, not all, they feel stuck because of kids. They feel stuck because of finances and independence. And it works both ways. If they're the ones...
The inverse can also be true.
Well, yeah. If they're the ones with a lot of money, they're the ones making money, they don't feel like they can leave their partner because their partner won't have anything, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. We are so messy. Adults are so messy. Being a human is absolutely insane. And also sometimes boring and not sexy, which is what we're talking about with Drew here, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes adulting is not sexy. It's budgeting.
Although he had a sexy moment, but we'll get there later.
We will get there later.
I will.
Wait, the sexy moment that we're talking about is about inner child playfulness. Let's not conflate
when they went
the
to
two.
dinner.
Yeah, let's not and say we did.
Okay.
I'm wondering with Drew, though, because maybe I missed this part of his therapy in the beginning, but did we ever talk about why finances almost seemingly equates to his self-worth? Like, he is so about finances, right? Like, it comes up in every session I've heard with him pretty much. And I'm wondering, like, I mean, look, I understand it. I don't want to come off here as like ignorant and like money doesn't matter. Like, it's more than that, right? Like, no, money is very important.
Right. But what you're saying is he has a relationship with money and finances and what that means, right?
Yeah. And it's a deeply rooted relationship. And
Totally.
I'm sure there are so many reasons for why it is. And I'm assuming you've gotten into it before with him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so some of the parts are his dad is somebody that has worked very hard, and hard work is a value.
Yes, that's what I figured.
And he made a lot of money in tech. So
his dad did?
Yeah. So his dad has made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And has had his own business and done really well.
That makes sense.
And that's kind of how he relates to things is when you're doing well.
That's
like,
success.
for example, Drew's brother, we hit this a little while ago, right?
I was about to ask about Drew's brother.
Right. When he graduated school, parents gave him 10 grand.
Yeah, which is kind of wild. They didn't give the same to Drew.
Right. I think a big part of that, as Drew and I talked about it, was that his brother had direction, had a plan. He was going into the military.
So he was almost praised and celebrated for having some sort of direction and thus got money, which is feeding that message to Drew that like, you are not successful or worthy of our
if you
money
don't have a
if
plan.
you don't have a plan. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And Drew is much more creative. I want to do fashion. I want to do something here. I want to go to LA and I want to, and it was different. And on the mom side, his mom has had a history of ODing, pills and alcohol.
Yeah.
And in spite of that, she was the one in control of Drew's finances. Like, she was always watching after the money.
Wow.
So for a long time.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, for a long time, he was on their healthcare, never had to worry about healthcare.
Yeah.
And whenever he needed money, he would talk to his mom because his mom did his taxes, did everything for him. So he never really had to learn.
But knowing what we know about his mom too, that anxiety alone, that's kind of scary to have an unstable parent who is in charge of your finances.
Right. So we worked for a long time on having parents as a safety net and what that meant.
Yes, I remember that.
And we had to distinguish between emotional safety net or financial safety net. Right? Because he could get their financial safety net, but they weren't going to be there emotionally for him.
Oof. And that's hard to untangle because it also feels kind of guilt-ridden, right? Or guilt-laden.
Guilt-laden, yeah.
Thank you. If you're taking money as a safety net from parents, but you're not emotionally very connected to them, maybe. Oof.
Right.
Tricky. That's tricky.
And it recently flipped where he's off of their insurance and they pretty much cut him off and were like, yeah, you're on your own now. And he wanted for a long time to be, that I've been working with him, to be on his own. And to just work. And he'll put in the work. He does.
I will give him a lot of credit for that. He's a hard worker.
Yeah. I mean, he works a regular job and he's trying to do side hustle and start his own thing and work with this partner doing this thing and work with this guy doing this thing. Like he's got a lot of coals in the fire.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's a lot. And I think, we were talking about it last time too. Like that can be part of the problem, really. I mean, we don't want to make it a problem because I think it's awesome that he is such a hard worker, but I think it can also lead to a tendency towards avoidance, right? Because a lot of people do overwork themselves in order to not feel their feelings.
Totally.
And stereotypically, like men, have done that for the greater part of humanity, or at least when the industrial complex started.
Wow, you just exposed yourself as you are still watching Mad Men,
I'm still watching Mad Men, obviously, yeah. So it's on the brain, those gender norms, gender roles. But he definitely has obviously a nuanced perspective on it. He's not fully like, I am the man and I must provide. But I think there is that message that he received, or that narrative, that to be successful, he does have to be able to provide and be daddy.
Right. And it's something that I think for him was part of the reason why, as we talked about his last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, him not wanting to tell them that they were pregnant because he didn't really like, well, what's my plan and what's this and how do I think about this? And so in terms of what you were saying and how that fits, it makes sense he didn't tell them. And I still, I hear something in him in this episode pretty loudly, and I've heard it for a while. He's trying to create distance from them in terms of the finances. Like he's very much about,
right.
No, I don't want their help. No, I don't want that.
It's almost like defensive in a way too. He gets very like, I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself.
She doth protest too much.
Right. Yeah. So you have to like remind him constantly to get it back in his feelings.
Right.
Which, by the way, I was like, I don't know at what point in the session, but there was kind of a shift from like, okay, we are talking about progress and wow, things are going so well. You're doing so great. And then boom, it's like, oh, wait, but, I have to remind you a little bit, Drew, like, let's get back into the feelings, right? And like, not everything is rosy and great. And I do wonder about that, like, as a therapist, too, it can be really hard to inject a little bit of realism, maybe, back into the conversation because, well, there was something that came up for me, I guess, just, as a person. Like, I just felt myself getting a little almost uncomfortable or like skeptical about so much progress talk. Like, sometimes I'm like, are we just like building them up a little too much? How did you say it? What you said something like, I don't want to like, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass. You said that, like, I don't want to just blow smoke up your ass. Let's also talk about like some of the not so great things and maybe just check ourselves a little bit here too, right? Because we are having a baby with someone who showed their true colors or et cetera, right? Like we need to also be mindful of that stuff too.
Right.
So that's my question. Like, I do wonder about this because we have to take them out of their progress, their praise, their like happy feelings. And it can be this kind of uncomfortable thing as a therapist to be like, hey,
right.
Yes. And
yeah. And that's, I think part of that sometimes for me with Drew in this session, I was thinking like, okay, it sounds like he's got a good boundary with parents. Like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need your help. I'm good.
Yeah.
It sounds like that.
Sounds like that.
And yet it's the thing I was saying just a second ago of, wait, he doth protest too much. Like, why? Okay. Is he convincing himself?
That's what I'm wondering this whole time.
Like, what's going on? He says he has a plan, but maybe he doesn't. And this is where, we've been talking about this the last couple sessions with him, that idea of 10% Boy Scout, 10% Green Beret. Maybe I'm in the middle. That's what we hit last time with him.
Right.
Like you were asking, I think last time about the 10% disappointment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's okay not to have it all figured out, not to know everything. And this is a little bit of that, he's giving me that flip where, no, I'm good. I'm really good right now. Like, yeah, I feel good. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like
really
that extreme. Like if the pendulum swings so much, that becomes a pattern in and of itself that like, every other session, it's like, we're doing really great. No, we're not doing. I'm horrible. I'm hopeless. I'm suicidal. Right. And I'm doing really great. And you kind of have to wonder, right? Like what is happening?
Right. I kind of got at that a little bit when I was saying to him, like the little fluff and challenge, like praising him for like, look, you're asking for support. You're not asking your parents. You're kind of shutting them out, but you were asking like your mentor for help here. And you were asking this person and that's cool.
Yeah.
And you're, in a sense, kind of showing the, he loves when I say this, the Harry Potter pictures.
Yeah.
Right?
Which I still need you to explain because you used it slightly differently than I thought it was in this session. I thought we were comparing a Polaroid to a Harry Potter picture.
Correct.
So that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because the Harry Potter picture moves and changes and the person in the picture ages still, like it's real time. That's kind what we're getting at?
Yet it's still a picture.
But it's still a picture.
Right. So it's sort of like, are you taking one static Polaroid snapshot then and one static Polaroid snapshot now and looking at those two things and just seeing the contrast versus like there's a Harry Potter picture, which is it's still kind of moving a little bit for him saying like, look, some of these things aren't just Polaroids. Just because you don't see them and talk to them, they could be a Harry Potter. They're moving a little bit.
Okay.
Right? There's still some change there. You're not seeing the whole picture of everything they're doing. And I think also we were talking about in terms of forgiveness, right?
Oh, yes.
And for him, it was not just forgiving for the sake of forgiving, really understanding that there's been growth. There is some change. It's not just a static thing. I think we get in trouble when we try to take a snapshot and project it out and say that this is how it is. And it really just goes back to the idea of, you don't know. And that's okay. You don't know.
And that's okay.
The plan or the future.
Yeah, you can't possibly be ready for everything.
Right. So if you just know that you can't take a snapshot of somebody responsible and adult and project it out and say it's going to be like that forever. Because you're going to get thrown by things.
Yeah.
You take a Harry Potter picture and you project it out, knowing there's going to be some movement, some growth within this.
Right.
And I mean, we could take it deeper. I think his parents see him as a snapshot of a Polaroid of when he was a kid.
Which, like, come on, most parents do, right?
Totally.
I think they want to almost. Like, they want to hold on to who you were as a baby. Because you're their baby.
Right. And most kids, as they're growing up, especially if they're doing this work, will naturally want to show them the picture of who they are now.
Right.
To
Look
go,
at
hey,
me.
see, I'm not that.
I'm
I'm
changed.
This. Right. And the reality is we're still changing.
We're always changing. It is really hard. This is something I think that comes up with clients a lot, that feeling of being misunderstood. I mean, it comes up with myself all the time. It's just that feeling of like, we can't control people's perceptions of us. And it's really, it creates havoc in the brain sometimes because we want them to like know us and see us for who we are. But we're always changing. So we also can't really expect them to always meet us where we're at or to know where we're at. And there is a level of like vulnerability that we have to offer a little bit too. And speaking of boundaries with mom, like you said, great. I'm glad that you have boundaries with mom. It sounds like you're living in line with your values, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I'm also wondering, like, this is kind of devil's advocate here, but instead of this very like Western individuality kind of thing being praised, I'm wondering if there's room for also hearing mom out. Because I don't know, when I hear about an individual client, right, and I started seeing couples, so maybe that's why I'm thinking about like different people's perspectives and kind of the collective mentality. But we have ripple effects on other people and their feelings matter too. And I'm wondering, could we have injected a little bit of like, well, mom, I hear your concern. You know, I know this means like you're going to be a grandma now and blah, blah, blah. But like, I am ready and I would love your support. But hearing her out, because what I was getting at is sometimes with clients when it's the individual and they are replaying a story for us or something, right? Or relaying, you know, a story. They have to, they don't do it consciously, but they leave out how the other person actually took it or like they don't know, right? Or it's their perspective.
Right.
And we don't know exactly how they said it to the person too. So I don't know. I was thinking about this while he was having this conversation with his mom. Because I'm like, what actually went down in that conversation? You know, because we only get like our client's perspective. It's something I think about in therapy in general. Like we only get our client's perspective, but not how it's affecting everybody else in their life.
Or even sometimes when a client will tell us about their relationship.
Yeah.
They'll often tell us what's not working and how things are bad and how communication isn't good.
Right.
So they'll think sometimes that we have a negative perception of their partner because we're only hearing the bad things. And that sometimes clients will go, well, no, I mean, they're also like this.
Yeah, I love them and they're great. Yeah. We have good moments too.
I think as therapists, you just kind of hold that there's probably a little bit of both.
Of course. Right? Yeah.
So I hold some of that, but there is such deep disappointment and I don't know the right word for this, but I don't want to say neglect on the part of mom, but not meeting a need and not being able to care for him or for herself in a way.
It's not invalidation, but it is somewhere in between that and neglect because it's not like full-blown neglect, but she just literally does not have the ability or the capacity to show up in the way that maybe he wants her to.
Yeah. You know, as we're talking about it, I wonder if part of it is that he has not been able to see her as an adult, as a fellow adult.
Yeah.
Right?
I think there's a part of maybe like he doesn't, I don't know, maybe I'm getting into Sarah territory here, but maybe he doesn't really respect her too, because there is so much
that's just
embarrassment.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it wasn't until he got out of the hospital and had a prescription for, I don't know if it was Oxy or Klonopin.
Something like that.
There was something that he took that he didn't like and got rid of. I mean, he didn't like it because he liked it.
Exactly. And it reminded him of mom. Yeah.
Right. And he started to understand, oh, she does that. As opposed to there's the mom that I need to take care of.
Right.
It's, I understand.
It's more empathy than just like, oh God, I need to take care of my mom. She's a freaking mess.
Right.
Like, no, it's, oh my God, whoa, I kind of see where she is.
She gets overwhelmed by life and this is her way of coping.
Okay, so you think that he's seeing that in his mom, or maybe he has
seen it in pieces, and I know later on, because I am still working with him maybe a year beyond where we are now.
And whoa, knowing what we know now too, like what's going on, it's pretty crazy listening to this stuff.
It's wild because you guys are actually seeing and living with him during the progression. Like you're hearing him process this stuff and hear this come through.
Big old life events.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, you said it earlier, Kenzie. You said, being misunderstood. And I think that's one of my biggest things. I never want to be misunderstood. I want to be Mr. Understood.
Oh my God.
Oh,
okay.
No,
now that's
didn't.
giving me like those early 2000s, like Mr. You know, when it was like Mrs. I'm grumpy all the time, or like Mr. Understood. Okay. Right? I'm going to get you a t-shirt.
I actually like that one. And that's
okay. Great.
Some of them I just say because they're funny. But this one...
Mr. Understood.
Right.
But how do you proclaim I am understood? Because that's on other people to understand you.
Well, and I will say, and this is why I don't want the t-shirt, because being Mr. Understood is internal.
Oh my... so you have to eat the t-shirt.
Right?
Okay. Okay, Doug. No, Mr. Understood doesn't make sense because what? You can't ascribe...
Know thyself.
Yes, you understand yourself, but I'm talking about when other people misunderstand you. Why is that so painful?
Oh, like right now?
Like, am I misunderstanding you?
I'm just saying that I value clarity in myself.
Yeah.
That's what helps me have boundaries.
Okay.
And I can describe them and explain them to others.
Yes.
As best I can.
Yes.
And if they get them, that's awesome.
Right. But that is a very adult perspective. I mean, really, to like not take things personally and to have that non-attachment, right? To like other people. What? What? Okay. Doug is making such a face right now. You've been making so many faces and no one can see them except for me. And I'm alone in this. I'm alone in my misunderstanding of you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't deny it. Don't gaslight me.
Right. And see, what you're doing right there is because you understand and you think you're being misunderstood. So you're getting worked up. Right?
It does. It works me up. It makes me. Why does it make
nobody
people,
likes that? I mean, that's something, in all honesty, something that does bother me on a personal level is when people get me wrong or they get something wrong. And I want to clarify. And to me, what I've learned is it's not my job to clarify. It really isn't. And
what's your secret for not caring so much?
It's not that I don't care.
No, you do care. You have your feelings and you accept them for what they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really hard. And that's something we've walked through with Drew a lot because he wanted to have this deep conversation with his mom and have it all out and do all this.
Yeah.
I think in big part because he wanted his mom to understand how difficult it's been for him.
Right. See me. See me. Please understand what I have been through and what I'm going through.
Exactly. Not just see me, but see what I've been through and what I've gone through.
Yeah. All the Polaroids.
Right.
Or
exactly.
all the Harry Potter pictures.
All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the moving picture of me. And you haven't been able to see me this whole time. I mean, think about, I have such a visual in my head of like a kid at a pool about to dive in.
Yo, Mom, watch this.
Yeah.
Dad, watch me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They want to be seen.
Exactly. And for a long time with Drew, when he was designing something or doing something, he couldn't wait to call his parents and show them.
Yeah.
And they didn't really respond well.
Oh, it's really heartbreaking, actually. That makes me so sad.
Yeah, because all we really want is to be seen.
Yeah. And that's why therapy is so partially so effective.
Right.
Because you are being seen with this like unconditional positive regard, right? Like somebody is seeing you and taking you at your word and perhaps challenging you to go deeper than your words, right? Which is what you do with Drew all the time and with Sarah. I mean, both of them actually do avoid their feelings in different ways. I think we all do. That's what defense mechanisms are. But yeah, speaking of Judge, this part just hit me. I don't know why, but something about girlfriend. We were like talking about her in the past tense of like, you know, we found out who she was or we knew who she was. She was a go-go dancer doing bottle service,
right?
You know, and then the word mistake came up like, and I'm just thinking, whoa. That's not the mistake we're talking about, right? Like dating someone who was a go-go dancer. Like, I don't know. It almost sounded like a little misogynistic of like, yeah, we knew she was a go-go dancer and bottle service. So of course she was going to cheat on you and blah, blah, blah.
No.
Please correct me.
Well, walking through it for him, he said, like, I don't care if she's a go-go dancer, she does bottle service, like, that's cool. I know who she is. That's fine. And saying that she was a party girl. Okay. And she liked to party. And she would get herself in trouble by partying too much or getting into certain situations. And he was like, okay, I get that. That's who she is. Okay. It was when she cheated on him. Then he was like, oh, wait.
This is affecting me.
Right. And he still didn't do his thing of being all or nothing and just splitting.
Right.
He's like, okay, I'm not forgiving you right away. Yeah. But I'm also not running.
So on the topic of forgiveness, right? Because, it's such a hard one, especially with like, you know, what people call betrayal trauma, right? Of like, you know, infidelity or affairs, whatever, someone cheating on you. It's incredibly painful. And is there hope? Is there...
I wouldn't know.
Because no one's ever cheated on you. No one's ever broken your heart, Doug.
Not that I'm
That's
aware
obviously, no. Oh my gosh.
Carry on.
We're not getting into that. But is there space? Is there a middle ground with forgiveness? Because, you know, there's radical acceptance. There's also radical forgiveness. I'm pretty sure there's like an actual book on the topic. But, you know, this concept of just seeing what happens if you just radically, without judgment and just no preconceived notion, right? Like just forgive. Just see what happens if you just forgive. But what does that even look like? Because can we take away those feelings of that lingering suspicion or skepticism? You know?
The lingering suspicion and skepticism. Interesting, because Drew, for a while, with previous girlfriends, would play investigator.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where he would go through their phones. I don't think her, but one before her would go through her phone, was looking for things and trying to find things.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're going to find something.
Of course. Confirmation bias.
Right. Totally.
But also, is it warranted sometimes?
Well, I mean, look, I think what we have to look for is when does it start to affect your well-being? And with Mom, he was like, oh, she's hiding bottles around the house. She's hiding pills. So I have to look out for her. And this hypervigilance. And that became how he was and how he would relate to her and how he thought of her. Mm-hmm. Then fast forward to a girlfriend where he was looking at, oh, what is she hiding? What else isn't she telling me? This isn't okay. And he went into that mode.
Right. Obviously, there's something I don't know here.
Right. And if I don't know this, what else don't I know? Mm-hmm. And it was horrible for him. He was super, super anxious.
Of course.
That's why I say, like, you know who this one was. She was somebody who was doing this, doing that, doing this. Like, so what are you looking for? It's already there. You know it.
You already know what? You already know it. What's the it?
Oh, that she likes to party, that she will cheat, that she's done this, she's done that.
Because she's already cheated, we know that she is capable of cheating? Is that what you're saying? Because I still hear, like, because she's a party girl, she was going to cheat.
No. Because she was a party girl that did cheat on him.
Okay, because she cheated. Right. Like, we know she's capable of cheating.
She's shown you that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean she's going to be that forever.
Right.
But why go looking for something that you know is somewhere, has existed already?
Yeah, why dig up that Polaroid picture?
Right. Go with what the Harry Potter picture is right now, right? Like with his mom, she's somebody that has OD'd, that has done this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anytime she sounds like she's slurring some words, are you going to go, oh, she's that again?
Yeah.
And feel disappointed? Like, you know, she's shown you who she was, who she still is.
Yeah.
So we need to accept that that's just how she is.
It's a very cognitive approach, though, right? Like to kind of just restructure, reappraise those thoughts, because I think a lot of the times with this trauma or betrayal, people really believe that metaphor that like the body keeps the score, So, ooh, what do we do with those feelings as they come up when we are feeling hypervigilant or activated and anxious, and we can't just change the thought around it?
I think what's healthy is we recognize, oh, well, I can't just change the thought around this, and this person is constantly triggering me.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't the best person for me to be around.
Okay, so we can ultimately, and what I put in my notes is like, is the answer just boundaries? Because a lot of the times, what you say, what I love that you say about boundaries is that they're not there to keep people out. They're actually there to let people know how to stay in your life. Like this is where the opening of the gate is, like here are my boundaries.
Right.
So if it's appropriate for them to stay in your life and you feel like you want them to be in your life and it's healthy, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you're constantly getting triggered by somebody and you're constantly having to state your boundaries or act on your boundaries, that might get exhausting. It might also be, well, this is how this friendship is. Okay.
Yeah. And what if you can't leave too, right?
Well, that's his mom. He can't leave his mom.
When it's a familial relationship.
And it's something that I was saying, like, it sounds like you're having a boundary with mom.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
And he even said, like, when we told them that his girlfriend was pregnant, that mom wasn't effusive, and then later called and then was kind of angry that he's doing it his way. And doesn't want her to come down and help out and doesn't want to tell her what sex it is right now or what gender it is right now.
Right.
Like, it was
and that's mom's anxiety. Like that's her control. There's the ending of this episode. I don't know if we're going to add something back in, but the ending was a little abrupt. I'm not sure if you noticed that. But you had said part of that comes from dad and how he did that. And Drew resonated with that and said, yeah, I like that. But I don't know what that means. Because I put in here, like, that shame comes from someone else's standard, which I love.
Right.
I love that. And then you say part of that comes from dad and how he did that. Are we saying that dad also, like, what are we saying? I'm confused, Doug.
Like I was saying, like owning who you really are. And there's no shame in who you really are. That's fine. The shame is somebody else's standard and somebody else's judgment. Right. The shame and the judgment, going back to what we were talking about before, the values that dad had of working hard and having this and doing this. Yeah. And maybe it's part of the dynamic of mom and dad and how they were with each other and what Drew has seen as a result of that. And it goes back to the way he used to look at his dad, like holding him up on this pedestal. Here's, the highest point of a human being, and I want to be just like dad, which is what a lot of us have when we're young.
I was going to say that's a very also natural developmental phase, or a part of the phase where we realize our parents are human,
right,
and that they have flaws,
right,
and we can't idolize them maybe as much as we did,
right. And this was to a degree, just a seed that I put in there right at the end.
Got it.
Oh, yeah. And that's Dad to a degree, too.
Yeah. And he liked it. So it's like, okay, wonder how that'll come back in the future. Because
We'll
it
see.
will.
It will.
Oh, it will.
Always does.
Oh, my God. It was a big old seed that you planted. Okay.
You know what will also come back in the future?
What? Us?
That's right.
Oh.
We'll be back in the future, probably in a week.
Yeah. Definitely in a week.
Oh, okay, then.
That is how this works.
We'll be here.
We're consistent.
Will you be here?
Will you be here?
Be here.
Be here
with
now.
us. Be here now.
Yay, mindfulness.
Although right now,
Full circle.
we're out.
Bye.
Bye.